Have you ever had a conversation so perfect it felt like destiny? You laughed together. They really listened. You felt seen, understood. They agreed with your ideas, praised your insights, and somehow they always seemed to know exactly what you needed to hear. But then something shifted. A small betrayal. A twisted truth. A moment where you caught them doing something that didn't match what they said. And just like that, the illusion shattered. You were left wondering, was any of it real? And the scariest part, you didn't even see it coming. Welcome to the world of master manipulators. They are among us, everywhere. And the most dangerous ones aren't the loud, aggressive types. No, the most dangerous are the ones who smile while they deceive, who charm while they control, and who win your trust only to use it against you. These people are master manipulators, and you don't even see it. So, let's ask a question that will guide everything we do in this video. What if your thoughts, feelings, and even your reality aren't really your own, but have been shaped by someone else's invisible influence? Today, we're going to dive deep into the psychology, philosophy, and strategy behind manipulation. But not just surface-level tricks. But we're going to the root. We're going to uncover the unconscious patterns, the existential vulnerabilities, and the philosophical truths that manipulators exploit. Because the truth is, we all have blind spots. And those blind spots are exactly where manipulation thrives. But let's start here. Why are some people so easy to manipulate? It's not because they're weak. It's because they're human.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
We assume we're rational beings, logical, self-aware, in control of our decisions. But psychology tells a different story. Most of our decisions are driven by emotion, unconscious patterning, and a desperate need for meaning. Manipulators know this. They don't attack the surface of your mind. They slip into the cracks. Think about this. Every person you meet carries an invisible map of their inner world. Their fears, needs, memories, and beliefs all shape how they interpret reality. Master manipulators are expert cartographers. They read that map better than you do. They find your soft spots, your hunger for validation, your fear of abandonment, your need for certainty, and they weaponize them. But here's the twist. You can't be manipulated unless part of you wants to be. Now that's a hard truth, but it's a liberating one. Because once we become aware of the parts of us that crave approval, power, connection, or security, we can reclaim the steering wheel. So ask yourself, what need in you is so strong that someone could exploit it to control you? Let's go deeper. In philosophy, there's a concept called bad faith coined by Jean-Paul Sartre. It means lying to yourself to avoid the anxiety of freedom. We pretend we're victims of circumstance, roles, systems because the alternative is terrifying. We are responsible for our choices. Master manipulators thrive when we live in bad faith. When we give away our power and pretend it's not our fault. They don't just trick us, they seduce us into abandoning ourselves. Here's the paradox. Manipulators don't steal control. We surrender it. But why would we do that? Because control is exhausting. Because freedom is frightening. Because being responsible for our own lives means facing uncertainty, guilt, and existential loneliness. Manipulators offer us a deal. Give me your trust, your loyalty, your obedience, and I'll give you certainty, identity, and belonging. It's the same deal authoritarian leaders offer. The same deal cults offer, the same deal toxic lovers offer. And it works. Because deep down, most of us are terrified of being truly alone with no script, no approval, no guarantee. But what if I told you that recognizing manipulation isn't about becoming paranoid or cold-hearted? It's about becoming conscious. Let me show you how manipulators operate at the highest levels. Not just in relationships, but in politics, media, corporations, and culture. They use 5 key tactics. Let's break them down. 1. Emotional hijacking. They trigger your emotions, especially fear, guilt, and shame, because once your nervous system is activated, your critical thinking shuts down. You react instead of reflect. 2. Identity fusion. They convince you that your identity is tied to them or their cause. If you love me, you'll believe this. If you're a good employee, you'll agree. If you're not with us, you're against us. 3. Information control. They distort your perception of reality through lies, omission, or overwhelming you with conflicting data. And this creates confusion, which leads to dependence or future promises. They paint a glorious future if you just stay loyal. Manipulators rarely focus on the now, but they dangle the dream so you ignore the damage. 5. Guilt reversal. They make you feel bad for doubting them, even when they hurt you, especially when they hurt you. You become the villain for noticing the truth. Sound familiar? These tactics aren't just random. They're strategic. They're rooted in evolutionary psychology, behavioral economics, and existential philosophy. You see, humanity evolved in tribes. Belonging was survival. Rejection meant death. So we developed hypersensitivity to social cues. Manipulators hijack this ancient instinct. And in a world where we're more disconnected, more uncertain, and more anxious than ever, manipulation has become a silent epidemic. But now we flip the script. Because once you recognize the game, you can stop playing by their rules. Let's talk about philosophical immunity, the ability to withstand manipulation by becoming radically self-aware. It starts with this principle: know your needs before someone else does. If you don't know what you crave, love, power, security, understanding someone else will discover it and use it to control you. But when you name your needs, you reclaim your agency. Next, accept the discomfort of freedom. Freedom is scary because it means no one is coming to save you. It means you must make hard choices without guarantees. But it also means you are no one's puppet. Now ask yourself, where in your life are you pretending to be powerless because it's easier than being free? This is where the journey turns heroic. Because resisting manipulation isn't just about defense, it's about becoming a person who no longer needs to be controlled. A person who chooses truth over comfort, clarity over illusion, integrity over approval. And here's the twist: the manipulator is also trapped. Yes, they control others, but they're slaves to their own unresolved wounds. Their need to dominate, deceive, and exploit comes from fear, from emptiness, from the belief that love must be earned through power. So this isn't just about spotting the manipulator, but it's about healing the parts of you that ever believed you needed to be manipulated to be loved. Because the final truth is this: no one can master you unless you abandon yourself. And when you stop abandoning yourself, the manipulator loses all leverage. So let's make a pact. From this moment forward, we commit to truth even when it's uncomfortable. We commit to self-awareness even when it's painful. We commit to freedom even when it's lonely. Because the alternative is living someone else's life, on someone else's terms, under someone else's control. And that is no life at all. These people are master manipulators and you didn't see it. But now you do. And now you're free. Now that we've seen manipulators for who they are, strategists of the unconscious, architects of illusion, it's time to ask the deeper, more dangerous question. How do we protect ourselves from being controlled without becoming controllers ourselves? Because here's the trap that few people talk about. Once you've been manipulated, once you felt the sting of betrayal, once you've been made to distrust your own judgment, you may be tempted to play the same game, to strike first, to outmaneuver, to manipulate before being manipulated. But if you do that, you've already lost. You've become the very thing you were trying to escape. So the real challenge isn't just spotting master manipulators, it's resisting the urge to become one. Let's go back to the root. Manipulation, at its core, is a reaction to fear. Fear of vulnerability. Fear of being powerless. Fear of being unlovable, replaceable, unseen. So when someone manipulates, they're not acting from strength, they're acting from deep, unhealed wounds. And if you've been hurt, that fear can live in you too. But instead of healing it, many choose to control others so they don't have to feel it again. So ask yourself, am I trying to protect myself or control others so I never feel powerless again? This is where true strength begins, not in domination, but in self-mastery. Now, let's peel back the psychology of what I call the invisible puppeteer. These are the manipulators who don't use force or threats. They don't scream or demand. They whisper. They flatter. They guide you gently into decisions you think are your own but aren't. They use soft power, not hard power. And the scariest part, their tactics work because they align with your ego. You want to believe them. You want the story they're selling because it makes you feel good, wanted, special, chosen. And so, you open the door yourself. This is how cults recruit followers, how toxic partners gain control, how political ideologies radicalize minds, not through aggression but through emotional seduction. So how do we break free? First, we must understand the key switch manipulators flip in your psyche, the transition from autonomy to dependency. It often starts with something positive, attention, praise, opportunity. But over time, your sense of self becomes entangled with the manipulator's validation. Their approval becomes your compass. Their disappointment, your punishment. You stop asking, "Is this right?" and start asking, "Will they approve?" That's when you've lost your center. But here's the truth. They don't want you to realize you were always enough before they arrived. You just forgot. So the first step to liberation is radical self-ownership. You must reclaim your inner compass. Not the one shaped by fear or shame, but the one carved by your values, your truth, your vision. And you must be willing to walk alone with that compass, even when others try to lead you astray. Now, let's talk about the manipulator within. Because manipulation isn't just something others do to us, it's something we're all tempted to do. every time we guilt someone instead of expressing our needs, every time we withhold information to shape an outcome, every time we charm instead of communicate. The line between influence and manipulation is razor thin, and it lies in our intention. So here's the question to ask yourself in every interaction: am I seeking to connect or to control? Because one is rooted in love, the other in fear. And remember, the invisible puppeteer often doesn't know they're manipulating. They've normalized it. They've built a worldview where control equals safety. So if you want to be free from manipulation, you must start by being honest about your own patterns. Now let's go even deeper into the philosophical dimension. In the ancient Stoic tradition, freedom wasn't defined as doing whatever you want. It was defined as living in accordance with reason and virtue. But that means you are free only when you are not enslaved by impulse, fear, or the opinions of others. So ask yourself, am I truly free, or just reacting to the invisible strings others have tied around me? This is where awareness becomes your greatest weapon. Because once you see the pattern, you can choose differently. Let's talk strategy now. How do you spot manipulation in real time? Watch for these signs: confusion, if someone's words and actions don't match, or you constantly feel unsure around them, pay attention. Confusion is a smokescreen manipulators use to destabilize you. Guilt pressuring, if someone makes you feel selfish for asserting boundaries, they're not respecting you, they're trying to control you. Urgency, manipulators often create artificial pressure. They decide now. MP, worry. If you don't act, you'll lose everything. This shuts down your rational mind and activates survival instinct. Over-identification, if someone says, "we're the same," too often, or mirrors you excessively, they may be trying to build artificial trust quickly. Isolation, if they slowly pull you away from other relationships, perspectives, or opinions, that's not intimacy. That's conditioning. And once you detect these signs, what do? You don't attack. You don't accuse. You observe. You detach. You reflect. Because the moment you get reactive, you've lost. Manipulators thrive on your reaction. Your emotional fuel is their power source. Instead, you must become what I call unmanipulatable. Not by being cold, not by being distant, but by being so rooted in your truth, so aware of your values, that no one can hijack your emotional GPS. But they can lie, they can flatter, they can pressure, and you will still stand, because you've done the inner work. Let me ask you something painfully honest. What price have you paid in your life for not trusting your intuition? What relationships did you stay in too long? What opportunities did you miss? What parts of yourself did you silence? It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility now. Because once you see the puppet strings, you can no longer pretend they don't exist. So let me offer you one final shift, perhaps the most important. Forgiveness. Not for them, for you. Forgive yourself for not seeing the manipulation sooner, for trusting the wrong people, for abandoning yourself in the name of love, loyalty, or peace. You were doing the best you could with the awareness you had. But now you have more, and that awareness is your superpower. Because you don't need to become a manipulator to survive manipulators. You just need to become conscious. You don't need to control others, you just need to reclaim control of yourself. You don't need to build walls, you need to build discernment. This is the path of the awakened, the path of the philosopher, the path of the truly free. So the next time someone tries to pull your strings, pause, breathe, and remember who you are. Remember that your worth is not defined by their approval, that your truth is not dependent on their lies, that your soul cannot be owned by another unless you give them the key. These people are master manipulators. But you are no one's puppet. You are the one who cut the strings. And now you walk freely. If this video shook something in you, if it opened your eyes, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Let someone else wake up. And remember to subscribe for more journeys into the unconscious, the philosophical, and the real. Because the more aware we become, the less power manipulators have. And that is how we win.